So I'm a little late to talking about the games that were announced at the Summer Games Fest and the Nintendo Direct, talking the weekend of June 8th, mostly because I wanted to gather my thoughts, because it's always, I don't think I want to share my initial thoughts and impressions, because I may turn to regret that, and I think that's the case with me, especially this time, because I would say I was disappointed in some things that were announced. Maybe I was disappointed in the Nintendo Direct at first, but ultimately it's just because plenty of games that I realize just aren't for me, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But the main takeaway when it comes to the games that were announced is that we're getting some good stuff, and we saw new trailers for behemoths of games, and I'm talking the Ocarina of Time remake, Kingdom Hearts 4, Persona 6, and Final Fantasy VII Revelation. You can add some other games that maybe you're extremely hyped for, but I think when we're talking about the games that will sell, that are super popular, that are not GTA 6, those are probably the ones that come to my mind. But I think I want to start off, and I'm just going to talk about the main takeaways from the weekend for me, but also the games that I'm most interested in. To start off, I want to talk about the thing that no one has really mentioned, and that's the start of the Summer Games Fest when Geoff Keighley showed that Steam saw a record-breaking number of new game releases this year through the first 5 months of this year, with 9,266. That is a 16% increase over all of 2025, 26% more than 2024, etc., etc. You get the gist. There is a lot to play right now. Now, of course, you could think that there is an oversaturation of games. Are players going to be able to play them? If you're making a game, is there a huge risk now that you're just having too much competition? Maybe, but there is some good news to all this. And that there have already been 14 new games with 1 million or more unit sales, and 10 of those come from indie studios. I'm looking at the screen here and I see what is presented, and you see Slay the Spire 2, which I've been playing, Mutagenics, Vampire Crawlers, and Super Battle Golf, which I think that last one might have gotten a huge boost because it was only $8, so people were willing to try it, but that might have worked out for them because here they are at the Summer Games Fest. So when you look at the screen here, what do you notice about these games? To me, it's the variety. There is a spread here, and there is no common theme. The other takeaway is, I think the Summer Game Fest is a nice substitute to E3, but it is missing a important element, and that's interactivity. What E3 did was provide gamers the opportunity to try these new games and gave the developers input or feedback into how people are feeling about their games so far before they release it, right? And that's missing here because the showcase simply presents the games that publications were able to include in this 2-hour block. And I appreciate at least that there are no stupid bits that you would see at the Academy Awards where it just keeps the show dragging. You're like, come on, get it on. Let's just go ahead and get these going here. It was just nonstop, new games being showed. And I honestly appreciate Geoff Keighley's excitement for each game. To me, I think Geoff is authentic in his excitement for these games. But when it comes to the Summer Games Fest and Nintendo Direct, I would say we are seeing the trend in what's popular right now. And that is horror and medieval sword RPGs, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I noticed that a lot of these games were that. So if you're a big fan of horror or those medieval sword RPGs, you're eating good. Now, as for the Nintendo Direct, I really didn't have any expectations. I'm just a little bit disappointed with how little they showed of their heavy hitters, most notably with that last reveal of the remake of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, because it was just a very small glimpse of it, and then it said 2026. Is like, are you sure? Because we don't really know much about this game. I think the presentation was just kind of, it wasn't right. Like, I think starting off the show with Rhythm Heaven was like, oh, okay, that's the game you're going to get us excited for, but that's just my opinion. And then the only game they really showed more hands-on with is the new Nintendo Sports Resort game, and that was the thumb wrestling minigame. Not for me, but it was played for laughs, and I guess that was funny, but when that's the only thing you're showing with like more in-depth gameplay, a bit disappointing, but it's okay. And then there's also the Kingdom Hearts collection. One thing I wanted to note there is that I played all the games. I'm not interested in this. But when they were showing the trailer for it during the Nintendo Direct, does this picture look off to you? Because people are suspecting that it looks AI. And at first I was like, no, why would they do that? The more I look at it, it's a little suspect. And it hasn't been confirmed by Square Enix yet, but if this is to be true, that this is definitely an AI promotional picture here, that is extremely disappointing to see coming from Square Enix. Extremely disappointing. So let me get into the games that I'm really most excited for here. And I think to start off with the one that maybe I'm the most hyped for, the one that I would probably buy day of, is Stranger Than Heaven. But there is some baggage going on with this, because earlier, Yakuza film legend Bunta Sugawara was included, but he died in 2014. And now we have Tupac, who was the big reveal for the trailer shown last weekend. And yeah, that's rubbed some people the wrong way. Tupac, who's been deceased for about 30 years now. And Snoop Dogg came out and phoned in the hype, saying he talked to the Tupac estate, and I don't know. I'm holding all opinions until more about the story is revealed or until I play it, because there could be a reason why they include people like Sugawara or Tupac, and maybe there's a theme of music that's key to why Snoop Dogg is even in this, and maybe they'll do these people justice. I don't know. I'm holding my opinions, but I think the game looks great. I know the story is going to be stellar because RGG Studios always delivers on the story. Final Fantasy VII Revelation, the final game reveal from the Summer Games Fest. Now, this is the final chapter in the retelling of my favorite game of all time. I think the original Final Fantasy VII game is a masterpiece in both story, gameplay, scale, music. And so, I've been playing the first remake, I played Rebirth. Rebirth was a bit of a disappointment to me, but I do not care. When they showed the trailer for this, I said, yes, I am ready. I have all the hype in the world for this, and I hope it's just not over-padded like Rebirth felt like. Cuphead was probably my favorite announcement because it was so different, with puppets in a 90s themed commercial. It was just unique. And so basically the puppet anchorman said that development on a new hand-animated game is underway, so expect that to take another 10 years. Give them time, because these games, the original Cupheads, is timeless because of all the effort put into it. Now, despite that, there is another game that some of the development team is working on, and it is called Mighty Cuphead Adventure, and it's a more 90s arcade look to it. The commercial looked awesome, had that 90s nostalgia to it, you know what I'm saying? That was exciting. I think that was the most clever announcement, and it got me hyped for Cupheads. If they told it another way, I'd be like, oh cool, Cupheads is coming back down the road, but that trailer was really good. Of course, as I'm saying, Ocarina of Time, despite not knowing much about it, I am excited for it. I have an opinion about the Nintendo Direct, showing all the games that we're most excited for here are all remakes. Or games that I already can play right now on my Switch through the Nintendo Switch Online feature, right? But it's okay. I'm curious to see how they retell it. And from what I saw, I mean, it does look pretty from the little bit we saw with Link sleeping, but I would probably still buy this game, and that's just because I am that Nintendo nerd that will eat anything up they put down that is Zelda, that you can tell they put a little effort into. And the other remake is the Star Fox reboot. Now, I am annoyed that it's the same story again with Star Fox. I think they can do so much with the characters and the world, but I will say I actually really like the new character design. It grew on me. It's more realistic, and I'm excited to see if the new Star Fox game sells well enough for them to be like, hey, maybe we can do more with the Star Fox universe, and I would love that. Oh, what else? I'm looking at this Wolf Among Us Remastered, and Wolf Among Us 2 was announced from Telltale Games, the maker of those Walking Dead video games from the 2010s. I didn't know about the original game, but I discovered the Fables comics recently. It's a more gritty take on fairy tale characters as if they lived in like some dingy neighborhood in New York City. It's kind of cool. I was actually interested in the Fables comic book series because of that. I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. And so it stars the main character, Big B Wolf, like the big bad wolf. I didn't know about this, so I will keep an eye on that. I always like Telltale Studios design. It just has like that, it pops, right? It pops on screen. So the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy was announced to have a port to the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm excited for this. I have yet to play any Xenoblade game because I don't know, I just haven't. And I know what kind of task that is. Dedicating maybe like 100+ hours to the main story, but I want to see what the hype's about because people are really excited about Xenoblade. And when the first Xenoblade was announced, I don't think people were as excited as they are now for the new Xenoblade that was introduced at the Nintendo Direct. But I think it's great that they're porting the trilogy to the Switch 2. Maybe I'll pick it up from the very beginning, but we'll see. And then, of course, Kingdom Hearts 4, that was surprising to see being announced with the Nintendo Direct, because Kingdom Hearts, I think, was always associated with PlayStation, but that's just a change in time, right? So Kingdom Hearts, I grew up with the series, and I'm excited to see where it goes with the story, right? The one thing that they didn't share is any Disney worlds that are included in the new game, but for me, it's up there with the anticipation of new Smash Bros. Characters, right? I look forward to seeing what Disney characters Sora, Donald, Goofy interact with, which world they are included in. So maybe we'll see Sora go to Colombia, for the Encanto world. Now I'm looking down the list here. I have a list here of all these games that piqued my interest in. I love House, the developers behind Untitled Goose Game. They've been in the works on this game called Big Walk. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a game for me because it is a more social game, something to play with friends, where you basically go on a long walk, you communicate with them, you just mess around. It's very chill. It's a very chill game if you want it to be, but I just don't know if it's something I can see myself playing with friends, but maybe. I just think it looks very interesting, so want to keep an eye on that one. And then lastly, this is the one that I'm surprised I was most interested in, and that's the One Piece Grand Gourmet game, and that's just because the pixel art is what drew me in. I love One Piece, so seeing all of these characters, even the obscure ones, in a very eye-popping pixel art way is neat. Now, maybe the gameplay is giving me shades of the Cabaret Grand Prix that I was somehow into. Maybe I'm discovering the kinds of games I do like, which is like these manager games, because you're managing a restaurant with Sanji, but it's something that I might pick up if it's the right price. I don't know. If that comes out sooner than later, that might be one I pick up just for fun. Something, you're on the plane, you want to play something, I'll play a little One Piece Grand Gourmet. Who knows? So, yeah, that is my takeaway from this past weekend. I always look forward to seeing what games are announced for June. I think all gamers got something they were excited for, and that's great, because that just shows that people are still making the games that people care for.